Let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Troy Dante Presswood, president of the Ward 8 Democrats, and I'm officially calling our March 2025 meeting to order. Thank you to all of our Ward 8 family and friends and community members for joining us here today for this meeting. Before we dive in, it is Women's History Month. I have the backdrop, as you see it, of a wonderful woman-owned Ward 8 business called Grounded. They're located in the Anacostia, downtown Anacostia in the Historic District, also the Arts and Cultural District. And so if you have not been to Grounded, I invite you to come over to Anacostia to check them out. They have lots of plants there to purchase, but it's also a wellness space too. They do have matcha, they have coffee, they have little eats and bites and things like that. But they also have a yoga space. I mean, it really is an incredible addition to Ward 8 to Anacostia. So check them out here in Ward 8 if you haven't already. Before we die, like I said, it is Women's History Month, and I want to take a moment to shout out some incredible women of the Ward 8 Democrats who have helped us to remain strong and prosperous as we go forward into 2025 and beyond. And so I'm just going to call out a few names in case you know them. So Sheila Bunn is our first vice president, Maria Wallace, Maria Johnson, Barbara Jones, Wanda Lockridge, Regina Pixley, Tatiana Robinson, who is our newest member because she's the National Committee woman on the DC Young Democrats. I want to shout out Amber Hewitt, who is our newest add-on member, and LaJoy Johnson Law, who is our Ward 8 representative on the State Board of Education. So all of those women who I just named are on our executive committee for the Ward 8 Democrats. But I want to just shout out all the women in Ward 8. Happy Women's History Month, Ward 8 ladies, from all of us here at the Ward 8 Democrats. So today we will have a meaningful discussion about the DC budget, including the current budget crisis that we hope was narrowly avoided, the current fiscal year 2026 budget process that we're going through and how that will impact us here in Ward 8. And also we'll talk about what's happening with our open council seat and the needs of Ward 8 residents. We are honored to have Council Chairman Phil Mendelson here today to discuss these issues and take your questions. We all saw the drama that unfolded on Capitol Hill this week, where the House tried to force DC to adhere to last year's budget levels by sneaking in that provision. The Senate initially approved it, but then they later did an about face and approved this, this provision to help DC out to exempt us from that CR that the House and Senate later passed. But what does that mean, really? Because the House is on vacation for another week. So, what does all of this mean for DC, for DC statehood, for the freedom that we've been fighting for here in DC for a very long time? What does all of this mean? And so, joining us to break that down would be Senator Ankit John. I'm sorry, let me back up. It's Ankit Jain. He is a newly DC elected shadow senator, and then also Representative Owolewa, our shadow representative, will be here later to talk as well, and he'll share some updates about our fight for statehood. So you made it. You're here. Now help us spread the word. Invite your neighbors to join us live here on Zoom or on YouTube. You can also engage with us on social media by going to Facebook or Twitter or X and Instagram. We're at Ward 8 Dems across all of those platforms. Use the hashtag Ward 8 Dems or Ward 8 Votes to join the conversation. Now, before we get to our conversation today, I want to just talk a little bit about what we've been up to. First of all, we still have the active Ward 8 budget survey. We want you to take that if you haven't taken it already. You can go to our website at ward8dems.com, click on the link, and you'll see where you can just take the survey. It will take really no more than 5 minutes. We want to know what you're thinking and want to hear your voice on these important matters. I'm going to see if I can. No, I don't think we have the chat feature of. Oh, no. Maybe. Let's see if this goes to everybody. I'm sure y'all will tell me that if you received that or not. Um, if you didn't, again, we invite you to go to.
I'll drop the link, Troy.
Okay, I just think. Oh no, wait. I gotta put this other link in here. Okay, thank you for that. But I think I have it. Just want to make sure. All right. Took 3 tries, but it should be in there. Hopefully that went out to everyone. If it did not, then again, go to our website at what8dems.com. You can click where it says fiscal year 26 budget, the survey there. Take that so that we can get your voice on what matters here in our ward. I think it looks just like this. Actually, you know what? Let me just pull this up. And what you can do if you have your mobile device, go ahead and shoot it toward the screen there. You can, it'll take you right to the link that we want you to go to and take the survey. What we're trying to do is compile a list of priorities that we know exist here in our ward that have always existed in our ward. We do this every year. We've done it at least since I've been pres. But obviously this year it takes on more meaning. It takes on more of a crisis because we are without a council member. And so we want to make sure that all of us are pushing and pulling on all levers to get the attention of members of the council as well as the mayor for the priorities that we believe are important to us here in Ward 8 for 2026. So I'm giving you time to scan the QR code so you can go and take that quick survey. We're going to take it down next week because we have to then compile the data, make sense of it, put it in a letter, and then send it off to our members of the council and the mayor. So let's go ahead and take it. I want to see big, big, big participation. Last time when I put this up last month when we had this meeting, we saw the numbers spike. So I want to see the numbers spike once again. And screenshot this and share it with other people too if you need to. And those of you who are without a mobile device, you can go onto our website at ward8dems.com because perhaps you're watching this on your mobile device. I know, I know. I'm thinking about you too. If you're watching, then you can go to our website, ward8dems.com, and you will see, scroll down maybe a couple of stories there, and you will see the link where you can go and take this budget exam, this budget survey as well. Okay. So let's see what else we got here. The DC Board of Elections, actually, they want us to participate in providing them with feedback about the location of the vote centers for the July 15th, 2025 special election. And so I'm going to put this up on the screen as well so that you all can see this. You can go to that website, dcboe.org/elections/ward_8_special_election. Do not use the dot at the end, the period at the end. But you can screenshot this. Go to that website, provide them with feedback and information. You'll also see the proposed uh, both early and same day voting locations. You can go there, let them know if these locations are good, if if maybe there's another one they should consider. They want to hear that. Um, I have had a chance, and we have had a chance to take a look at it. We don't see anything that's out of the ordinary based on what they have done in the past. The primary that was held back in June and the general that was just held back in November. These appear to be the same locations as before. So we think we're good, but let's make sure that we're good. So if you have suggestions about a change of locations or an addition or subtraction, let them know at that website. You can let us know too, because we will certainly be providing comments to the Board of Elections. But note that the deadline is on Monday. They need to hear from you by then. And so you can go to that website, or you can go straight to the Board of Elections website and click on the link there and provide them with feedback and comments. Okay. All right. Let's get on to something fun. So we recently went and had a wonderful conversation with our seniors over at the Congress Heights Senior Wellness Center. Um, it was really good to see some of our seniors who we know, who we've worked with on several initiatives. Mr. Ron was there, who was one of our seniors lead here at the Ward 8 Democrats. Mr. Risa was there, Miss Yvonne. Shout out to Mr. Ritchie for hosting us, and we went and gave them some really good information about what was going on with the special election because they were very curious about that. They also was very curious about the budget process as well, and so I gave them information on how they can engage with that, the upcoming testimony that they can give, and all of the information that we know that our seniors want. They want to hear, they want to know what's going on, they want to participate. And so we went over and did just that. And so just shout out to all of them. You know, we're going to go back again because we saw that, first of all, it was a great reception. So thank you to everyone there. But we want to keep going, not every month, but as often as we can because they wanted more information. They wanted to be spoken to and they want it to be heard. So I certainly want to just thank them all for their participation and for keeping me straight on 2 weeks ago. We had a really good time. So thank them again. And then we was a partner. We helped to sponsor a youth rally at Matthews Memorial Baptist over on MLK, where our very own Khalid Barnes, who is our student rep on the State Board of Education, a Ward 8 resident, a Ward 8 high school student, helped to really organize this incredible event. It had vendors like the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, it had the ACC there, it had a community college there, and it had all of these young people who were entrepreneurs, who were selling different things. Like I have on something here, I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but like these little like bands and bracelets and soaps and all types of things. And so we went over, we spent our money with them, of course, but we just want to just shout him out, shout out what they're doing, what he's trying to do, and what these young people, these incredible young people are doing to try to keep all of them safe and informed. It was a great, great, great conversation. If you have not seen it or have engaged with Khalik Barnes and his group, please do so. Uh, they are, when they keep saying that our youth are wayward and out to pasture, well, maybe some of them, but not all of them. And if some of them are not, that means all of them are capable. So let's make sure that we are wrapping our hands around our youth, and meeting them where they at and getting them engaged and getting them involved. And so again, I just want to tip my hat off to Khalik Barnes and his entire crew. It was all run by the young people, by the way. You see that big picture there with some people who, have a little bit of years on us. Well, we were there because we were told to be there. We were voluntold, basically, and where we needed to be and what we needed to do. But it was all run by them. So shout out to them. We also met our new DNC chair, Ken Martin. He was at here in Washington meeting with the DNC, the DC Democratic Party members last week, I think it was. Actually, it was on Marion Barry's birthday, back on March 6th, to be exact. And really cool guy from Minnesota. And was very well received by everyone in that room there. That's the party members, but there was even more people there who were just part of the gallery. And so certainly had a chance to talk to him, tell him about Ward 8, invite him over to Ward 8 anytime he wants to come through. He's on a nationwide tour right now, and so DC was one of his stops, and so we certainly appreciate that. He has a really interesting backstory. If you ever have a moment to really check him out, raised by a single mom who had addiction challenges, but he overcame all of that and fought his way, and here he is now the chair of our party. So really nice guy. We are excited because we needed the chair, and I think he's laid out a good vision for what we need to be doing as a party going forward. And one of the things he said, and I do want to make sure I mention this, is that there is a way to get involved. There is a way to get engaged. In DC, we have adopted Virginia, for example. Virginia has an off-year election cycle with their governor and their state house, and so we have adopted that state, and we plan to go into that state to help Democrats win. And there's a way you can get engaged and involved with that. You can certainly email us here at the Ward 8 Democrats in terms of how you can get engaged, but you can go to our DC Democratic Party website and get engaged, or go straight to the DNC website and get engaged there as well. So many ways to get involved, get engaged. We're not out here alone. There is community. And so that was one of his missions, one of his talking points there. And we appreciated him being here for that. All right, I'm going to stop there because we do have our our shadow senator with us today, and we don't have him for a very long time. And so I will get to some of the other talking points a little bit later in our discussion today. But I did want to welcome Senator Ankit Jain. He is, like I said earlier, he is our newest elected um, member uh, to our statehood delegation. This past week, he's been on the Hill fighting alongside all of us for our autonomy and for, release from this crazy CR that had us tethered to the federal government's spending. And so he is here to discuss where we stand in this movement, in the statehood movement, the challenges ahead, and what we can do as residents to get back into this fight. So, Senator Jain, thank you for being here. Welcome back.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Troy. And I'm glad to be here. So, I mean, Troy mentioned I'm our shadow senator. It's, as you all know, we don't have any voting senators or representatives in DC. So the DC government has created two shadow senators and one shadow representative to be our elected advocates for statehood, for home rule, and to protect our rights from attack by Congress. And so I want to talk mostly about the continuing resolution, because I know that's what's on everybody's mind right now. And so Troy gave a good overview. I'll just be very brief in giving an update of kind of where we are right now, and then we can talk about like what's the next steps, and then why, what happened here and what was successful and what was not successful in this fight over the past week. So the Congress has passed the continuing resolution that cuts over $1 billion from DC's budget. I don't know if the president has signed it yet. If he hasn't, he's going to sign it any minute now. And so, to be clear, that provision is going to be operational within the next few hours to days. I think we have Chairman Mendelson on, and he can talk about what happens if that provision is in place for like 2 weeks, and we're able to reverse it within 2 weeks. And my hope is that we'll be able to avoid any cuts if we can get another bill passed quickly. But it is in effect. It will be in effect when the president signs it. And so that's that obviously is very bad news. The good news is that the Senate, right after they passed the continuing resolution, they passed another bill reversing those cuts for Washington, D.C. And that actually passed unanimously on a voice vote. And it was sponsored by Republican Senator Susan Collins from Maine. And so that bill now heads to the House of Representatives. The House is out of session for the next week. They come back the Monday after this Monday. So the earliest the bill could pass is 10 days from now. And so the good news is that President Trump supports this bill. On the floor, Senator Susan Collins said that the chair of the House Appropriations Committee supports the bill, and that's the committee of jurisdiction for a bill like this. And so and it passed unanimously. Every single senator voted yes on this bill. And so it gives me a lot of hope that we will be able to get this bill reversing the cuts passed within the next 2 weeks. Ideally, as soon as the House comes back, we can get it scheduled for a vote and get it passed. I think if it goes to a vote, I imagine it'll pass overwhelmingly. If every Democrat votes yes on that bill, you just need, I think, 3 Republicans to vote yes. And I think we'll have a lot more than 3 Republicans voting yes on that bill, because even the Republicans realize this is not what they wanted to do after they understood the impacts. The big question is, will it be scheduled for a vote? And so I think we are all very optimistic and happy that we've gotten to this point where they held a vote within, they wrote a bill, they got it analyzed by the Congressional Budget Office, and they got it held for a vote within like basically 24 hours. So I think we're all very happy that that happened in the Senate, and hopeful about the House. But I don't want people to be complacent, right? Because there was just a Political article that came out a few hours ago that said that the far right is pushing the Speaker of the House to not hold a vote on this bill, and so there's going to be some opposition, and we can't get complacent and be like, "Oh, we did our job, and it's going to pass the House." Because I will say that why were we able to get this vote in the Senate and get this issue addressed? It was because we were too loud to ignore. We had people coming every single day to the Hill from Monday through Friday. On Thursday, we had literally hundreds of people, parents and kids, and just Washingtonians who were scared about what's going on, who gathered in the Senate office buildings, and then went and talked with staff or senators. We talked to every single senator, some more than once, and there's a lot of media coverage because we were out there and we were enforced. People were calling if they couldn't make it in person. They were getting a lot of calls from DC. We were hearing that. And that was why we were successful. Obviously, we had good relationships. I think the mayor spoke with Senator Susan Collins as well. So the reason we are here with a chance is because Washingtonians made sure that they made their voices heard, and that's exactly what we're going to have to do again with the House of Representatives. So I think everybody can take a week off, go on vacation, have some fun, and then come back the week after next and get ready to do this advocacy all over again in the House. That's the plan. We need people to be making phone calls to the House members, telling them to vote yes and to hold a vote on this bill. And we need, if you can, I know it's always, unfortunately, Congress is in session during the workday, but if you can, we need, and if you can take a half a day off work and come up to the Hill to lobby, I mean, that is going to be so effective. I just want to, pull up a, something that I heard about. I'm just going to read this to you. So we had someone from Deal Middle School come and meet with Senator Boozman from Arkansas, conservative Republican, and so we had a group of students, and we had a seventh grader from Deal, and she said, and I'm going to quote, she said, "In my school, we just read about a Black girl in Little Rock who was the first student to desegregate her schools. She knew she had the same rights as other American kids to get her education. And that's what we're trying to do here, get the same kind of education and schools that other American kids get." And, those kind of stories, the staffer who she told that story to actually emailed her back saying, "Thank you for your advocacy. It made an impact." And she actually was crying during that meeting. And so don't, these kinds of personal stories, they really do make an impact. They really do matter. Even if you're talking to a conservative Republican, that it matters for us to be able to speak from our experience about what these impacts will be. And so I think the only way we're going to be successful in the House is if we continue this advocacy that we did so successfully in the Senate. And so I am hopeful. I am optimistic that we'll get a vote within the next 2 weeks and get this reversed. But only if we continue the advocacy. And I know Chairman Mendelson will come on and speak about what we're going to do in the meantime with these budget cuts. And so then I wanted to say two more things. One is that I know that Representative Owolewa will speak about this, but the only reason that we have to deal with this in the first place is because we are not a state. No other jurisdiction, no other city will pass a budget and just in the middle of the year see Congress reverse it for no reason other than it seems like spite. Washington, D.C. is the only city that has to deal with Congress overturning our budget in the middle of the fiscal year. Until we become the 51st state, this will always be a risk. This will always be a threat. And it's just yet another example of the need for DC statehood. I mean, it's great to have our House delegate have a vote. I know some people advocate for that, but until we become a state, they can always mess around with our budget. And so we're going to keep our eyes on the prize. And this is yet another example of the consequences of our lack of statehood. And I will say, if there's any silver lining from this, I think that it got a lot of attention nationally, and a lot of people who didn't know what was going on are starting to learn about what it means to be Washington D.C. without a without statehood. And so that is, I think, I think we need to continue to make that point about the need for statehood to stop this from happening. The last thing I'll mention is separate from the budget fight. I think we need to keep our eyes on what the U.S. attorney is doing. President Trump has appointed an interim U.S. attorney. His name is Ed Martin, and you may know that the U.S. attorney prosecutes all adult felonies in D.C. So that's basically all adult violent crimes are prosecuted by the U.S. attorney. This is a really important job, right? If this person doesn't do their job properly, people will die. Having effective, swift, and certain prosecution is one of the most effective ways to reduce crime. And so we need to have a U.S. attorney in this position. It's a really important position. Unfortunately, Mr. Martin is not focused on fighting violent crime. He's called himself the president's attorney. His focus seems to be on prosecuting the president's political enemies. And he has created chaos in his office. He fired 8% of his workforce. Several people have resigned because he's asked them to do unethical things. An office, a U.S. attorney's office that's in chaos, that's focused on prosecuting the president's political enemies, is not one that's going to be effective in prosecuting violent crime. And so the president has nominated this person for a permanent position, which has to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. And so we need to keep our eye on him. And my hope is that he is not confirmed by the U.S. Senate, because we can do better than what we have here. I mean, I'm not going to agree with anyone the president nominates, but I do expect a basic level of competence from this person, and we don't have that right now. So I continue to monitor that, and I think everybody should make sure that they're staying on top of that, because that is a really important position that often is under the radar. So I'll stop there. I don't know, Troy, if we have time for questions or what the plan is, but happy to take questions if we're doing that. Troy, you're on mute.
Thank you. We have a couple of minutes with you.
That's right.
Okay. All right. And so just a couple of minutes. So yeah, first of all, thank you for laying out, I think, how we got here and where we go from here. I think that was pretty telling. I want to go back to something you said earlier, which was that the House is on vacation this week, essentially on vacation, back in their House districts. And so, but we are still able to reach out to members of the House and to their staff to register our concerns about, making sure that they pass this resolution that's for the District of Columbia. We can still do that, or should we wait until they get?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, you can still call. And actually, I do think it's a good idea to continue to call. We won't be able to visit. I mean, we can visit, but a lot of staff will not be there, and so it's probably best to visit when the members are back the week after next. But in terms of calls, yes, they're still picking up calls. So there is a group called Free DC, and they've done a really good job in creating an organization around all of this. And I see there's some questions about what is the planned meeting place and time on the Hill to lobby together. And so so this is a good question. So if you go to my website, Senator Jain, Senator Jain DC.com, we're going to be putting under the Join Us section of the site, we put those kinds of opportunities for doing lobbying. And so we'll put that on our site. If you sign up for my newsletter, we'll also put it out in the newsletter. But I would also sign up, and then you can follow us on social media. I'm Senator Jain. Sorry, I'm Ankit Jain DC, Ankit Jain DC on most social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok. And so I'll be making sure to make people aware of what the opportunities are to do that kind of organizing. There's a group called Free DC, and they're the kind of the ones who are doing a lot of the organizational heavy lifting.
And so we should note that they're at all 8 wards. They have people on the ground in all 8 wards. And that's an opportunity for, I think, everyone, no matter what ward you're in, to get involved at your ward level with Free DC. They had a really big presence and turnout on the Hill this week. And so I want to take another question very quickly. This is a question from Brenda Jones, who is here in Ward 8. Brenda, you're live with our senator.
Brenda, if you're trying to talk, you're muted right now.
All right. Hi, how are you? I
Good.
just I was trying to see if there's anybody else on the line, or they outside of you and I. I don't see anything but just you and the senator. That was one main thing I was wondering.
Do you have a question for the senator?
I do, but I would like my question to be answered. How do I get? Oh, I can't even get on chat. That's what I'm also mentioning.
Yeah, so this is a webinar which has a different feature than a regular Zoom. Yeah, there's a Q&A feature. If you can want to click on that, you can type in your question there. But we are with limited time with him. Do you have a question for him?
Well, it might be for him, it might be for you. Is there a regular schedule, a meeting schedule with the at-large council member, the senator, and the other elected official with like the ANC members? Do they meet on a regular basis to talk about issues in a particular ward?
It's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't have a regular meeting schedule, but I am regularly doing events like this, and we put that on our website on the events page. And so if you want to hear what's going on and learn more, you can go to our website, that's senatorjaindc.com, and go to events, and we have updates, and we'll always put all our events there on that website. And then I also say that we have the opportunity. You can request for me to go to an event that you're hosting, and we get those requests, and I try to say yes to as many of those as I can. So that would be the best way. Is my website has where I'm doing events, and I'll put it on my. Sorry, you can request a specific one, and then the final thing I say is we're working on a town hall for this is more for impacted federal workers, but anybody can come to that, and so that's gonna if we can get everything organized in time, be in early April, first week of April, and so we'll make sure that we're advertising that as well.
So once again, we can go to your website. Can you just give people the web address again so folks will know how they can sign up for your
Yes.
newsletter, how we can get engaged, and we'll know when the next time we're going to be on the Hill, because I know there are a lot of people who want to show up again on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, so I'll put it in the chat as well. It's Senator Jain DC, Senator Jain DC.com.
And then you have an email address too, right?
Yes, good flag. So my email is Ankit, ANKIT .Jain, JAIN @DC.gov.
Okay. Any last thoughts?
I mean, I think we just need to continue the. What I'll say is that I often hear from people within Washington D.C. Well, what does statehood get for me, right? Why should I care about statehood? And this is I hope you're continuing. You're regularly talking with your friends and family about the need for statehood, but this is such an important example about why we need to be a state, where we're cutting $1 billion from our budget in the middle of the fiscal year, just because Congress, wanted to spite us. And so if we were a state, that would not be possible. And so I would say continue to educate your friends, family, loved ones about the need for statehood and what happens when we're not a state.
Got it. And I will say that Senator Paul Strauss, who is the senior shadow senator for DC, he had a personal matter to attend to today, but he said he wanted to come and be a part of this. And so we will invite him to come back in April. But Senator Jain, you've always come through for Ward 8. I tell people all the time, you're the only one I saw really going hard campaigning, for this seat, even when you already had it locked up as a Democratic nominee. And so we appreciate you just coming through and sharing your expertise and what you know and helping our residents, our voters better understand the process and what's ahead coming up in the next 10 days. And so again, if you want to get engaged with him and to know what he's up to and what we need to do together, go to his website. You can also email him as well. And so thank you again, sir. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
So I know that several of you submitted questions for our next guest, uh, Chairman Phil Mendelson, I want to just go over some of the things that we've heard. Now, initially, Chairman Mendelson was going to come and talk about our budget for fiscal year 26, but there's been so much that's been going on this week that has a lot to do with even right now. So we'll certainly talk to him about that too. But just take a look at some of your questions here. There were questions about what we're losing $1 billion. How would that impact our new hospital? That's a question there. Questions around um, constituent services cuts for the ward. There's even questions around if what happens. If there's something that we can do in the future, maybe through a future legislation to ensure that when there are vacancies in a ward council office, that there's a way for there to be someone who can fill that seat on a temporal basis, as is very much in line with what we see for the at-large Democratic seats. If there's a vacancy that the Democratic Party, the DC Democratic Party, is able to fill those seats, but that does not exist for the ward level, and so there's questions about that, and we'll of course we'll ask the chairman about that. There's also questions about um, what is the council doing to do more on behalf of federal workers? If there's anything that the council can do more to support federal workers. So we will certainly have that conversation with our chairman. So our next guest is someone who plays a critical role in shaping the DC budget and governance. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson. He is the chairman of the DC Council. He oversees the budget process, legislative priorities, and council operations. Right now, DC is navigating a major budget crisis, balancing the needs of essential services with significant financial constraints. And that was before we got to this debacle that happened with the continuing resolution. We know that Ward 8 also faces a special election to replace our expelled council member, and residents want to know what is the council's plan to ensure, there's some stability there. So Chairman Mendelson is here to discuss the budget and the special election and what comes next for Ward 8. And he'll take some of your questions. So Council Chairman, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And my video is disabled, which is why you can't see me.
Okay.
And no, it says that
we can see you.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me vision here. So let me see. There's been a lot of discussion already about the continuing resolution. I do not know if all of this was said, but the CFO has indicated that he's not stopping check writing this week. And I know from conversations that he is, as long as we have this legislation pending in the House, that gives us a respite from what is going on. And I'm happy to answer any questions with regard to this debacle, as you put it, with the continuing resolution and the legislation from Susan Collins that passed the Senate yesterday. The mayor is to present the fiscal year 26 budget on April 2nd. And the CFO has given her a deadline of, I think it's March 21st or 22nd for pencils down so that the CFO can do the work that's necessary so we actually get the budget. What happened with the continuing resolution does not affect fiscal year 26. There are two different fiscal years and the legislation concerns two different fiscal years. However, the revenue estimates that were issued at the end of February are the basis for the fiscal year 26 budget. And those revenue estimates show that revenues next year are expected to actually be less than the revenues this year. In the past, we've talked about revenue cuts or revenue dropping, but it's always been revenue growth, but not as much as had been previously predicted. Here, we're actually going to see a drop in revenue, if I remember correctly, about $300 million. If you combine the revenue drop with increasing costs, just to give you one example, the teachers union contract is an example of increasing costs. The amount that the mayor needs to reduce in her proposed budget is somewhere around $1 billion. I know a billion sounds like it's the convenient common number these days, but that's roughly what she has to look for in cuts. The largest share of our budget, I think close to 30% of our budget is healthcare, and roughly a quarter of our budget is public education. So if we look at sectors of our budget like economic development, they're really a small percentage. Even public safety is a small percentage. So I think it's unavoidable, but we're going to see cuts with in the area. When I said healthcare, I think it's actually called, and I expect we'll see some cuts in education. Mayor's already announced that the UPSFF, which is the formula for funding DCPS in the charter schools, is going to go up by 2.7%. So that says to me that it's programs that are operated through OSSI, the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, that those programs are going to see some cuts. I'm not enthusiastic about any of this. In fact, I'm quite concerned. And I'm hopeful that the mayor is not going to make the same choices that she did last year with cutting human services and cutting some important programs like pay equity, which is in OSSI. But how do I want to put this? I'm not optimistic. Council will get the budget April 2nd. I think our first vote is the end of May, like May 28th. Under the Home Rule Act, we have to move that quickly. I had a town hall meeting in Ward 8 earlier this week, and one of the questions I was asked is what's being done to represent residents of Ward 8 while there's a vacancy in the Ward 8 seat. All of the personnel with former Councilmember White were brought over to my payroll, and many of them are now in the process of finding other jobs. But I am committed to keeping a Ward 8 constituent service operation going. And Monique Diop has been the lead with regard to Ward 8 constituent services. I intend to talk to her this week about her future with the office, but I want to keep the office open. If anyone calls the Ward 8 office number, as they've done in the past, you should be able to reach constituent services. If you go online to the council's website, you will find that there is a link to Ward 8 constituent services. So there's still representation going there, as well as, of course, constituent services for Ward 8 residents that are in the at-large council members' offices, including. The only other thing I'll mention right now is that, just a reminder to some, every committee in the council has oversight over specific agencies. I chair the committee of the whole, and the committee of the whole has oversight over public education, as well as the Department of Buildings and a few other functions like the retirement board about which we don't get a lot of questions. So why don't I leave it there and then take questions on anything that comes up? And thank you for having me. It's been a little while since I've been invited to Ward 8 Dem, so it's good to see you.
Yes. And so first of all, thank you for being here. And I know that you prefer to have these things in person. We meet virtually.
Yes.
Until we decide to have a special type of event. So on our next special event, we will be sure to invite you to come and be in person with us.
Excellent.
And just by the way, there is your signal is going out in and out a little bit. So I just want you to just know that. I don't think there's anything, unless there's something you can do about that, but just I want you to know about it. Okay, so we have questions. The first thing I want to ask you about, so I want to go back and clarify a couple of things. One, you said that you are committed to keeping someone in your office who will oversee constituent services in Ward 8 through the special election, which is July the 15th. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yes, that's what it said.
Okay, got it. And let's also make sure that we talk about taxes. So one of the things that we know, as you mentioned earlier, this is, the mayor is going to have to make some really tough choices with the fiscal year 26 budget. And one of the things we saw in the past, the council sort of played around with this idea of raising taxes to fill the gap. Is that on the table still, or is that too soon to say, or what do we think about that?
I don't think that's the solution to our problem for a couple of reasons. First of all, we raised taxes last year. The budget that we adopted, the mayor proposed about $300 million in tax increases. The council added another $100 million to that. That's not including the sales tax increase that hasn't gone into effect that she has in last year's budget. And I think the year before we raised taxes, I know that during the pandemic we raised taxes. Our budget actually increased from last year to this year by $1 billion. We cannot tax our way to a solution here. And there are folks who are talking about, well, rich people need to pay their fair share. I'm not quite sure what fair share means. It's kind of undefined, but we have increased the tax rate on the highest income brackets. We have increased the tax rate for higher valued properties. And we already had the most progressive income tax. In fact, our entire tax structure is, if not the most progressive, the second most progressive among all the states in the union. And progressive in this instance means that higher income people pay a higher percentage of their income toward taxes. I'm not saying that we're completely progressive because we rely on sales tax, which is a regressive tax. But taxing our way for $1 billion problem is not going to work.
Yeah. And I just want to make a note that if you have a question for the chairman, you can use the raise your hand feature or the Q&A feature in the chat. So one person who did use the Q&A feature in the chat, Jackie Ward, she wanted to know which departments are safe in the budgetary process. Will every department have to absorb some cuts, or will certain departments or certain areas, maybe like education, be sort of walled off?
I don't know is the correct answer because the budget formulation right now is with the mayor. And so these are decisions she's going to make. I will say this, that over the past week, as we all know, we were focused on the continuing resolution and the fact that it would require roughly $1 billion in cuts. And I said, and I think others said, that it was highly unlikely that any department would be spared. But that's because we were faced with the need to cut $1 billion in half a year. That's not the case with next year. So I think it's probable that there will be some areas where we will not see cuts. I know, for example, because I said this already, the mayor announced she's increasing the UPSFF by 2.7%. That means that DCPS will not get a cut. The mayor has said these are her priorities, that she does not want, no, her priorities are public safety, revitalizing downtown, and I'm blanking on the third at the moment. So that says to me that probably in the area of public safety, we will see, like with MPD, that there will not be cuts. And if the mayor doesn't cut MPD, I'm guessing that the council will not cut MPD. So it's really hard to answer the question because budget formulation is with the mayor.
Got it. But certainly, Mr. Chairman, I mean, you've been around the council for a while. I think what the concern is that, even before the CR, but looking just at what we thought would just be a regular, ordinary process of looking at the budget and of course factoring in the CFO's, projections about a shortfall in the future. Um, is anything safe? Like, I think folks are really nervous about that. I think, especially folks in Ward 8 who are thinking about Medicaid, which that's a federal conversation and a local one. Will everything still be at least looked at?
I'm not sure what you mean by looked at. Looked at to protect it or looked at it to cut it.
Yeah.
So
Think there-
again,
Mr. Chairman,
what's that?
I think they're concerned
Say
about.
that again.
I think it's cuts. You're frozen, sir. The chairman is frozen.
Okay.
Okay, unfrozen.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I can hear you.
Okay,
I can hear you saying I'm frozen and I'm moving around, but I
okay.
get how it works.
We can see and hear you now.
Okay. It's really hard to say what the mayor's going to do because the mayor's the one who's going to do it. In terms of the council, as you know, we have a month of hearings and we will hear from the public where the public wants to see changes. I will say this, if folks come in and say the solution is tax increases, even if we were to do tax increases, that would not solve this problem. Troy, I heard you mention Medicaid. I think we will see some changes there. The changes could be on what the rates are being paid to providers. It could be on eligibility. Right now, if I remember correctly, Medicaid is eligible up to, I think it's 230% of the poverty level. I think those are, and then also programs, but so, we've had over the years a number of what are called Medicaid waivers to expand what is Medicaid will pay for. I mean, those are basically the three areas for savings.
Yeah, because you're
And
biggest.
Medicaid is a very large expense.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, I was agreeing with you because human services is the biggest pot, and so that seems to be most likely to take a hit somewhere.
Yeah. So again, I mean, I get it that people want to know, but this is it's the mayor's proposal. And when it gets to the council, I think the council is going to look really hard at whether we can minimize what the impact is on residents. That's what we've done in the past. I know that's what the mayor says, but if you look at last year's budget, we were able to shift around quite a bit of money to restore cuts that the mayor had proposed.
Yeah. Uh, Dana Johnson said that, well, should we still be focusing on reaching out to the mayor and to her agencies so that we can recommend to her what key areas to protect around social services and benefits? Or has that ship pretty much sailed? I mean, I know that there were a number of listening sessions or budget roundtables. The exact term is failing me, but she had those, and so we're sort of beyond that now. But any advice?
Well,
Yeah.
the metaphor that's going through my mind is the ship has probably left the dock, but it's still in the harbor.
Okay. All right. Is that Georgetown Harbor or no? Just kidding. Okay. Here's another question. With the express benefit, I'm sorry, with the express budget constraints, how receptive is the council and the mayor in considering increases in multi-sector engagements that capitalize dollar impact, like STEM apprenticeships, leading to employment tracks, resulting in public-private partnerships like jobs? Anything on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but what comes to mind is that I am interested in efficiency. So if there is a program that costs less and gets better results, I'm definitely interested in it. And even if the program costs the same but gets better results, I'm interested in it. You know, government over the years uh, accumulates programs because they're good ideas. And we're not always good at looking at the evidence of whether those good ideas actually pan out. And I would like to look at the layers, if you will, of programming that we've layered on top of programming. But that I have a hunch we're not going to be able to accomplish much in that direction in the 76 days we have to consider the budget. When I say 76, first reading is around May 28th, and that's 76 days because we have to adopt the budget in 90 days, as I recall. Or 96. I'm off a little, but so I don't there's been a lot of talk about our looking more more intensely at expenditures. But this is an exercise that we are developing. Our budget office is just bringing on a couple of analysts to look at expenditures. And as I look at it, if not now, then next year, but we will be looking at how to get more effectiveness out of our expenditures.
Got it.
I hope that answers the question.
Well, it's a interesting question, a good one, but I think your answer is, listen, let's figure out what we can do to increase efficiencies. And I think this particular person was thinking about, listen, if there are budget cuts, how can we basically beef up, apprenticeships and help people, access education and jobs through that track. But I think ultimately, I know the city has a lot of, opportunities for apprenticeships and for, um, other ways of engaging those who want to go into different sectors and fields. So um, I, I'll move on from that question to this one. Um, Can you talk a bit about, if you know, I'm not sure if you know or not, but how is the city doing with recovering millions of dollars from ticket fines from people outside of DC? I know that was that last year the council passed the bill to allow the Office of the Attorney General, the DC Office of the Attorney General, to go and actually sue folks outside of DC, which I find so remarkable that wasn't already the case, but here we are.
So I'm aware that the Attorney General has filed
Yeah.
some cases. There also are the beginnings of some discussions I've been having with neighboring jurisdiction legislators
Yeah.
to see if we can't do something more with reciprocity. I would say that, to be honest, that we're not moving fast enough in that direction. Untapped revenue, but it also, we've seen some high profile incidents involving Maryland or Virginia drivers with a lot of unpaid tickets who are causing accidents in our city. I want to go back to the previous question because I might have misunderstood it. If the question was about apprenticeships or pathways, apprenticeships, DOES has got programs, not saying they're very effective. That is a concern. But the council has been mindful of what I call pathways, which is looking at UDC, for example, and creating pathway programs into social work or teaching or nurses, even IT. And there's been discussion about that with regard to DCPS, the expanding programs. Just got to note that my internet connection is unstable. I hope you can still hear me.
We can still hear you.
So So we are looking at pathways in that way as well, UDC and DCPS.
No, I think that's fair. There is a question around the federal for access and services for federal government employees. Can you speak to what the council is doing to support that? I know it's largely being driven by the executive, but is there support at the council level for our federal employees who are impacted by these DOGE cuts?
Uh, the council is definitely concerned. The primary benefit program, the last I checked, was inquiring with the federal government, which I think means the Department of Treasury, whether Treasury will reimburse us for unemployment compensation to workers who were fired for so-called performance. We all know that performance was BS, meaning that that was they weren't really being fired for performance. And so my understanding is that DOES is interested in providing unemployment insurance, but we get reimbursed by the federal government for federal employees who are on unemployment insurance, and so we don't have the answer. If Treasury will not reimburse us, we cannot use the unemployment compensation fund for unemployment, and I don't know that we have the ability with this revenue drop to be able to do something outside of unemployment.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Chairman, what do you make of what's happening at the federal level? I mean, I don't want to get our district leaders in trouble, of course, or not trouble, but raise the hour of the administration with any comments here, because we know they watch everything. But certainly, Mr. Chairman, you have to be mortified by what's happening at the federal level and the impacts, the significant impacts that will happen, that are already happening right here in the district.
As a elected official, I have chosen what, as an elected official, I'm going to focus on. And I'm focusing on the district and our programs and protecting home rule. As a citizen of the district, I mean, and I think that from a human perspective, it's horrible, horrible, horrible to just saying you've done lousy work, you're now fired, when it's not true. On a personal level, it's horrible. But on a programmatic level, maybe I shouldn't say but, and on a programmatic level, I'm concerned. I know from my experience on the council, if we simply take an agency and say we're going to get rid of 100 jobs, not sure which ones, or don't really care, or we're going to get rid of all of the probationary workers, and probation in the DC government is different than the federal government. That those are mindless cuts that can't help but have an effect on service delivery. Let's look at a program and see that there are 20 people doing a job that only 10 need to do. Okay, well, then we could cut it in half. But to just simply say we're going to cut an agency by, I forget what it is with the Department of Education, 50% of the workforce.
Yeah.
How do we know that student loans are going to get, student loan processing is going to be done effectively? Or that they're going to be able to get the Title I payments out to jurisdictions. So I'm very concerned on both a human and a programmatic level.
Yeah.
And then of course, it affects us as a jurisdiction. And that's why our Attorney General joined a lawsuit from other states, because we're suddenly getting hit with a whole bunch of unemployed people. And we, the district, are probably going to get hit harder, disproportionate to other states, because unemployment is paid in the jurisdiction where an employee works, not where they live.
Right. Right. Okay. That was a pretty measured response. I can appreciate that. But I think folks are certainly. I think there's two things happening. Folks are they understand that we're in a very precarious and unique situation, and I think Senator Jain spoke about it earlier that until we have statehood, we will continue to always sort of be in the whim here. But at the same time, um, we also know that if you don't fight back, if you don't stand up, then if you don't make your voices known and heard, then ultimately, they will walk over all over you and pay you no mind at all. So I know it's tricky. I'll just say that, but just know.
Yes. Well, I have been more critical than, I'll put it this way, I've been more critical than the other branch of government. But at the same time, we need to be careful.
Got it. There's a question from Michael Greer, who's our Issues and Legislative Affairs co-chair, chair. Michael.
Thank you, Chairman Mendelson. Great to see you as always.
Yes.
I have a question around Metro. As you know, we've made significant investment in Metro in order to ensure that our trains are safer, cleaner, and we're continuing to serve the residents across DC with reliable transit. Uh, what do you see as ways that we can optimize Metro, especially given our current budget constraints? And I also have just another quick follow-up around kind of that apprenticeship question, and more so, how does the council weigh kind of those long-term investments? How do you think the council will lay those long-term investments that we know will kind of create growth in 5, 10, and 15 years down the road versus kind of some of the immediate investments given this kind of more tenuous budget period? But kind of generally, what are your thoughts about optimizing Metro and identifying savings in this tight budget climate and
Okay.
think about long-term revenue versus short-term revenues?
Okay. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Let's see if I can remember. It's only two questions, but let's see if I can remember them. The first is with regard to Metro or WMATA. I have been hosting in my office periodic meetings with our Metro board members, as well as the city administrator, as well as Charles Allen, who oversees chairs our transportation committee, as well as the CFO, to discuss aspects of WMATA, such as the budget, such as the need for additional subsidy. And these have been good discussions so that the district is on the same page and actually being as supportive as possible. We have found that there is more resistance to fully supporting WMATA in Virginia. Richmond just hates Northern Virginia. And actually a little bit of resistance in Maryland because their budget is in worse shape. They have, I think, a $3 billion deficit that they're facing. So they're not interested in, or they're less eager, I'll put it that way, to increase the subsidy to WMATA. At the same time, we've been looking at ensuring that WMATA is being as efficient as possible with the subsidies it's getting. So we increased our subsidy for the current year by 200 million, which was at risk because of this continuing resolution. And we are looking to continue that and also support the general manager in getting to a state of good repair with the system. That means less breakdowns, greater reliability, and so forth. And I'm really pleased with the WMATA board members that we have, who are not the short-term agency heads or elected officials that have historically been who we've appointed to the WMATA board. With regard to, the other question was long-term investments with, I think the term was pathways, term I used. A reason why I have been as involved as I've been with public education is because we can do much better with regard to academic achievement in our schools. You all know that the gap between white students and Black students on our statewide assessments is embarrassing. and we can do much, much better. And I view education, DCPS and the charter schools as a long-term strategy to improving all kinds of outcomes for our youth. The ability for them to get decent jobs, for the ability for them to get a decent income when they're adults, and so forth. So I see that as the long-term strategy. I also have in the committee of the whole UDC, and I have pushed for increasing the subsidy every year to UDC and also supported their expanding programs. I mentioned them before, like nursing or social work or IT, so that there are more opportunities for our youth to get the education, I could say job training, that leads to better jobs and income. I hope that answers the second question as well.
All right, let's move on. We have a question from Regina Pixley. Regina.
Good afternoon, all. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the town hall the other day. It was very informative. And
Yes, that's two nights. That's twice this week that I'm seeing you.
yes, you'll see me on the 22nd. But my question
Excellent.
is centered around mental health. Where I work, I won't name it for the respect of HIPAA, but I would like to see more oversight. When you talk about Medicaid cuts, I would like to see more oversight with these mental health agencies. A lot of times they're providing poor service. They don't keep up with their consumers, which really keeps us at a standstill when, you know, trying to handle this challenge with mental health. You know, you're seeing the same people for the same reasons, and these providers are, you know, that's a big chunk of Medicaid money that these providers receive. Maybe there needs to be more oversight.
Good question. Thank you, Regina.
Yeah. Well, we've been struggling to improve mental health services. An example is schools where we want to have mental health counselors or professionals in every school. And I think we're challenged both in terms of pay as well as finding enough personnel. I think, Regina, the thing for you to do is, if you're not, is to focus on when our Committee on Health has its budget hearing. So it's already had its performance oversight hearing of DBH, but the budget hearing will be coming up, which is an opportunity for me to mention to everybody that I believe the council's budget hearing schedule has just been posted on the council's website. And it also, I think, will be a document linked to the Committee of the Whole agenda for next Tuesday. If you go to the council's website and go to the hearing management system, look up Committee of the Whole for next Tuesday, you should be able to find that document. It should be available a couple of ways to the council's website, the hearing schedule. And that would be an opportunity to focus on DBH.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our remaining moments here, I have another question from the audience, but there's another question that came in as well, and I want to get to that one, which is, see, it was highlighted earlier. Way to go. Okay. What is your message to Ward 8 residents who feel their needs are overlooked in the citywide budget decision?
I can only speak for myself, and that is I don't intend to overlook the Ward 8 residents as we're considering the budget. And I have talked to my staff about my doing more activities, such as the town hall this past week and my monthly meetup, which I'm doing in Ward 8 on this coming Saturday, which I think means next Saturday, at Dreaming Out Loud on Marionberry Avenue, 1303 Marionberry Avenue, 10 to noon. So I'm trying to do more in Ward 8 so that folks in Ward 8 are not overlooked. I mentioned before keeping the constituent service operation going. But but, and maybe I shouldn't say but, and I do know, even though I can only speak for myself, that the other at-large members care as well. And so they can be additional ears listening to residents of Ward 8.
Got it. Well, there was a question that was a handheld, and then the hand went down. So I don't know if that's
Maybe I answered the question.
you just might have. I did send a note just to see. Okay, it's back. All right. Let's see here. All right, Teresa, you are live with the chairman.
Hi, Chairman. Nice to see you. I have a question. My question is two parts. One may be more of a statement, but the question is, what, if anything, do you know about the potential for the House to add some riders to this $1.1 billion bill? And what is your tolerance for that before you, are saying, hey, well, maybe no thanks. Maybe you're asking the House Democrats to say no thank you to it. And then also my other question or statement rather is, can you use your office as chairman to create some kind of office? I don't know if this has already been done, but to create some kind of office to interface with Congress so we're not blindsided how we were by this.
Yes.
All right, and I do want to just note that, Mr. Chairman, you did tweet out a comment that said that while you were thankful to the senators that made that fix, it ain't over until the House agrees, and so that sort of ties into what Ari is saying about, are you concerned about riders on the bill?
Yes. So let me see. First of all, I do have somebody on my staff who's responsible for working with Congress and building relations. And I have begun some discussions to see if I should supplement that with a professional lobbying firm that can help get us improve access. So absolutely, I think that the council needs to have a presence in the federal lobbying with Congress and also with the White House. The mayor has a more robust operation than she's had in the past. And on issues like this continuing resolution, we were working together, but I think we need to do more. The phrasing in the question was so we don't get blindsided. Oh, we were blindsided. The document was released last Saturday. That is, the continuing resolution was released last Saturday. Democrats had no clue what was in it. And I think they were surprised even that it was being offered. I might be wrong, but that's my impression. There had been discussions, bipartisan discussions going on in the appropriation committees in the House and the Senate. And I think that that's what the Democrats expected. I think that what we saw this week was a very deliberate, thoughtful, and unfortunately successful strategy of the Republicans ramming through a continuing resolution that was harmful to Democrats, that's big D interests, and it was intentional. It was intentional that there was not a lot of opportunity for comment by Democrats or the public. It was intentional that the House went on recess as soon as they voted, and the vote was 217 to 213, so much for mandates. And it was intentional that this jammed the Senate. And I think they knew that the Democrats were going to have a hard time standing up to the argument that it would shut down the government because Democrats try to be good guys. So that's just to speak to.
Are you disappointed
That's just
in Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, the minority leader in the Senate?
I think all I'll say on that is yes. So we are trying to take an established Hill presence in my office and make it stronger. What was the first question? Now I've forgotten.
About writers on the bill.
Yes. I'm very concerned about that. Although we think it is probable that the bill will be fast-tracked in the House, and that would preclude riders. What we're hoping is going to happen is that the House leadership, we already know that Tom Cole, according to Susan Collins, Tom Cole's on board, and we know that the White House is supportive. So we're hopeful that with this, that the speaker gets on board, and with the speaker, the appropriations chair, of course, the Democrats, the White House, that this bill would be put on suspension and moved quickly without amendments. But that's not a sure thing. So yes, there are risks.
Last questions. Jackie, you had a chance to ask a question earlier. You have another question as well to ask?
Yes, we have been asking questions, but the one question I want to ask is about revenue.
Okay, go ahead.
The district takes in millions and millions of dollars in revenue. Isn't this the time that we should be looking at how we allocate that revenue, reallocate that revenue, so that we can plug the shortfalls that will be in the budget, will become as a result of the actions of Congress?
Well, we do. We take in roughly $10 billion a year in revenue, roughly. But it's already budgeted. It's not that we leave it unbudgeted. And so the budget exercise is going to be looking at, just as you said, reallocating it. Unfortunately, it probably means that there are going to be some cuts in places. There are some folks, Republicans in Congress, who think that we spend too much, that we take in too much revenue. I think we can always be looking at how government can be more efficient and effective in how it's spending. I am not somebody who believes, oh gosh, cut spending, cut taxes. But I am one who believes that we should be looking at whether the way we're spending our money is effective enough. But as I heard your question, Jackie, suggests that there is money that we're not spending, that we could use to plug some gaps. And unfortunately, there's not excess money sitting around that we can use to plug gaps.
Yeah. I know this was going to be the last question, but I am being bombarded by questions about housing, ADUs, IZ. Is all of this going to be potentially impacted with the budget cuts that are coming up in fiscal year?
Well, ADUs and IZ are functions of zoning and not the budget. The Housing Production Trust Fund, which is our main tool for getting more affordable housing, probably will be. It already was affected in the current year's budget. And what I mean by that is, if you remember a few years ago, the mayor talked about $100 million a year. For the current year, I think it was more like $70 or $80 million. We actually increased what the mayor had proposed. Affordable housing is also vouchers, and so we probably will see less money available that way. But the examples, IZ will not be affected, ADU won't be affected. The 30% set aside for affordable housing and dispositions probably won't be affected. But some of the proactive programs like Housing Production Trust Fund will be affected.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we want to thank you, of course, for spending some time with us this afternoon. We know you were here just the other day in the ward. You'll be back next Saturday as well for more discussions with residents and with voters. Can you leave us with your contact information in case that folks want to follow up with something they did not quite get an answer to here today?
Sure. Although I do want to just say one thing on the last question that I should have said. I think that the district government in our budget doesn't think enough about in what I call investments. And when Housing Production Trust Fund, for example, helps fund the creation of housing, that is an investment. It doesn't go away at the end of the year. We create affordable housing that lasts for many, many years. And so we need to be doing more of that. I just wanted to say that. Folks can always reach me at my office, 724-8032. And they can email me, although I actually don't recommend that because I get overwhelmed with emails, but they can email anybody in my staff, first initial, last name, at dccouncil.gov. So for example, my two constituent service folks are Pat Joseph and Destiny Riley. And so you just email pjoseph@dccouncil.gov or driley@dccouncil.gov. And I think you can also email constituent services through my website. So those are ways to reach out to me. But I try to be in the community, so that's another way to get to me directly. I hope that answers your question, Troy.
It does. And by the way, your connection has stabilized. So if only we had started our conversation now. But
Whatever I can do.
uh,
I'm only sitting like 10 feet from the router, so I have no idea what's going on. It might be something the Republicans are doing.
likely, yeah. Hey, thanks again. We appreciate it. Thank you for all that you're doing. And I want to note, we had some pretty strong feelings about things with the removal of our council member, and we have asked all of the council to rise up to the occasion to step up for Ward 8. You have certainly been among those who have. There are still a couple who have not, who have an at-large label on their name, and so, Mr. Chairman, we hope that we could use your help to get them to be more omnipresent in the ward. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get that legislation passed through the House, and so that we don't have to worry about this debacle for the rest of this year. I know folks are eager to join whomever up on the Hill when Congress returns, and whatever lobbying we need to do to get it done, we will certainly do that. So, but thank you for your leadership, sir.
Sure, and thank you for inviting me. Happy to come back
Thank you very
anytime.
much.
Okay.
All right, so I want to thank the chairman, of course. I need to, there was something that came up. Oh, yes. So let me just, the chairman mentioned that we have some budget hearings coming up. And so I want to, as always, give you information so that you know about these budget hearings. And so, for example, we have this one here. This is the budget hearing dates. He mentioned that on the council's website right now is actual dates of these hearings. So right now we just see that here it's going to be between April 7th through May 1st. But on the council's website, which we have not had a chance to put together a slide on this yet, but on the council's website would be the actual hearing dates for the actual departments and agencies. So check out dccouncil.gov for that information. But essentially, the timing is between April 7th through May 1st. And then, of course, the council will receive it on April 4th. The council will receive it on April 2nd from the mayor. And then they will have, the big briefing on August 4th. And then this is when, from August 7th through the 1st of May, that's when you'll have those hearings. For fiscal year 26, which again starts in October of this year and goes through the end of September next year. There'll be markups in May, early May, and then there will be a presentation on, what the council came back with. and then you'll see the votes here toward the end of this slide. So screenshot this so you have it. You at least have a sense of what's happening down at City Hall at the John A. Wilson building. And of course, go to the website if you want to know exactly when those hearings are, and that way you can participate. Okay. All right. Our last speaker today is we want to just sort of wrap up with this whole idea about what's happening around our budget autonomy here, and what's happening on the Hill. Because if this week didn't wake you all up about what can happen to DC, then you will never be awake. And so that's why it's so important for us to have these conversations with our leaders who are part of our shadow delegation. And so joining us next is Representative Owolewa. He is our shadow representative for us here in DC. He lives right here in Ward 8, which we certainly love. I won't get into a whole intro here because of time. And so welcome back to the Ward 8 Democrats representative. Can you just sort of let us know what's the latest from the Hill? We certainly got some of that from Senator Jain earlier, but what's your take on it, and what do we need to do next?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much, Chairman Presswood, for allowing me to come back to my ward, Ward 8 Dems, for this important conversation. As you mentioned earlier, I'm sure everyone knows, we had a huge budget crisis earlier this week. I believe on Saturday, the congressional Republicans introduced a continual resolution budget that essentially reverted us back to the fiscal year 2024 spending levels, which is about $1 billion less than fiscal 2025 spending levels. And unlike what most people know, fiscal 2025 actually began in October. So we were already spending money to the point that if this continuing resolution was to pass as is without restoring our funding, it would be a $2 billion hit because we already spent money. I know Chairman Mendelson, I'm sure Senator Jain discussed the impacts of this this issue. We would have to fire police officers, get rid of teachers, first responders, and a lot of the social services that we need to make DC's quality of life upkeep. So throughout the entire week, we saw council members, we saw the mayor go on the Hill talking about this issue. We saw elected officials go on Wednesday, and on Thursday, I believe our state board representative LaJoy, as well as other elected officials, including myself, went to the Hill. We went to Senate offices, spoke to people about the impact of restoring our budget. And last night on the 11th hour, the Senate, on a bipartisan manner, passed a bill that will restore our budget to the fiscal 2025 levels. Now, they already passed the CR as standalone legislation, but this bill has been passed to restore our levels to fiscal 2025 levels. Now it has to go back to the House, which was currently on recess, to on Monday to essentially pass the same bill so we can be restored whole. This is good news, but it also shows the impact of local lobbying on federal issues. We packed the Hart Building on Thursday. We packed the Senate throughout this week. And I believe Councilmember Robert White emailed each and every single senator about this issue. We saw the impact of Mayor Bowser keeping a relationship with the White House because the White House actually endorsed the budget bill that would essentially allow us to keep our current spending rate. Now, we do know that the Congress is pretty partisan. They are not friends to DC. They vote things on party line to affect us negatively. You know, they introduced a bill that would essentially remove home rule if passed. They called it the Bowser Act. They threatened to withhold federal funding if we didn't pave over Black Lives Matter. And they're all currently trying to attack our Medicaid. I believe there's a question about this, but in my opinion, as a healthcare worker living and working in Ward 8, if they were to drastically change Medicaid eligibility, then you could see the loss of hospitals, you see the loss of virtually almost every pharmacy in Southeast DC, because a lot of our residents make up the Medicaid recipients. Medicaid is income-based, and based off of that, people in this area would stand to lose, and a lot of the healthcare workers wouldn't be able to operate and turn a profit because of such. So when Chair Mendelson brought up healthcare payments, brought up healthcare eligibility, know that it affects our healthcare services here in DC. But back to the federal legislation, we saw essentially the bill from the Senate be unanimously passed, which is very rare, and it's back to the House, which will most likely be voted on next week. Now, the CR allowed us to avert a government shutdown and maintain the cost for the next 6 months until the end of this fiscal year, which would, as I mentioned, would be in September. So that's kind of an overview of that. I just want to say thank you to everybody here. I see some people on this call that were actually in the that joined me in the Hart building when we went to lobby senators to do what's right for DC. They may represent other areas, but they live in DC. Their staff members live in DC. And if they care about public safety, our public health, if they care about housing security, then it was right for us to be able to keep the money that we have. This is locally funded dollars. It's not federal money. And I think there is an opportunity for us to also educate the rest of the United States about that issue. This isn't about saving the government $1 billion. This money wasn't going to go back to the federal treasury. It was going to end up being an emergency fund / escrow that DC would have a hard time reaching. So it allows us to have that local autonomy, allows us to spend our own money the way we should see it, and allows us to not have to decrease our local quality of life. So this was a short-term gain. This wasn't a perfect CR. We are definitely know that this current Trump administration has been devastating to federal workers, non-citizen residents, and folks who otherwise need the federal government for healthcare needs and for sustainability and quality of life. So we're still working. We're still trying to improve life in America, but at the very end, we were able to protect our budget through the work that many of the people on this call did. And I want to highlight that and continue that energy as we, live in a couple of years of federal overstepping, overreaching, and intervention in our local autonomy. So again, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak really quickly. I'm open to any questions, but this is a good day for DC because we're able to fight for ourselves and make what's right.
Hey, thank you again for being here. I want to go back to something you said about how local DC showed up on the Hill. We packed those corridors of power in the House office buildings, and then later in the Senate office buildings. I mean, LaJoy Johnson Law, you mentioned they had a big, a playground or outdoor recess type of a thing right outside of the senator's offices there. Talk a bit about that energy, right? Talk a bit about how we got to get back to that, how it is so important that we, re-engage on this matter, because if we're not going to stand up for ourselves, we can't expect anyone else to. So you mentioned it. I want us to just really meditate on it just a little bit. Why was it so important that we showed up on Capitol Hill the way we did?
I'm so glad you asked that question, and it brings me back to a conversation I had with a congressman 2 years ago. I want to say his name, Bobby Scott from Virginia. And I talked to him about how come he's not so forceful on DC statehood, how he co-sponsors it, but that's kind of it. And he told me that if DC residents rose up, then he wouldn't need to do anything. If we storm the Capitol like those January 6ers, for example, then the conversation will be different. Now, I don't believe that we could storm the Capitol and be treated the same way as the January 6ers, but it showed on Wednesday and Thursday what happens when folks that look differently come into the Hart building, when it's not just a bunch of elected officials, when it's activists, parents, and their kids standing outside of the Senate saying, are you going to take away my teacher? You took away my parents' jobs. And that makes a difference. We saw newscasters come in covering these stories, allowing DC residents to tell our stories and our own voices to make sure that America knows that DC is not just Congress and the White House. And to also see that energy of we're not going anywhere because we live here. You work where we live. And I do believe that made a difference. Seeing Susan Collins ask, why did this continuing resolution chop off $1 billion of our budget came from the conversations that we all had. So when we speak for ourselves and we stand up for ourselves, it allows others to really step up for us. You know, we saw the mayor, we saw the council go out on Monday and Tuesday speaking on the Hill, but I truly believe that it was us, the people, that made the biggest difference.
Yes, 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 yes. All of that. No, because I'm so glad you mentioned the conversation with the congressman, because he's right. Like, if we're not standing up for ourselves, we can't expect no one else to. So I'm glad to see that we did that, and it was unconventional people, right? Folks you don't normally see up on the Hill, but on this week, oh, we were there.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message I loved, and I'm glad the media covered it. I'm glad we all covered it with our own social media channels, and there's more to do, more work to do, right? And so I think if we liked part one, then we should get ready for part two, the sequel.
Absolutely. And I remember there was at one point that we were so many people in the Hart building, in the lobby, that there was Capitol Police threatening to arrest us, right? And we're like, why you want to arrest us? And they said, well, these kids have signs up in the air, or they're making noise calling that chanting. I'm like, all right, arrest these kids then. And they kind of like, you know what, we can't really do that. But just to show that kind of energy, that the Senate was getting uncomfortable, that the U.S. Capitol Police was getting uncomfortable, we were making that, what they say, good trouble. And when we concentrate these efforts on federal legislation, we see results. When we were putting out this messaging to come out to the Hart building, people were saying, not much we can do. If it passed the House and they have the numbers in the Senate, then what are they going to do for DC? When you heard about the Minority Leader Chuck Schumer say on Thursday that he was going to vote for the CR, everyone thought it was doomed. But it really shows that when we show up and continue our advocacy, things happen. And we saw people from all 8 wards. When they say folks from Ward 8 don't show up, that's not true. I saw LaJoy, I saw Jacques. Heck, I was there. I saw people from Harriet's Wildest Dreams, and we were not only there as DC residents,
A lot of
we were
young
there as
people,
Ward 8 residents.
a lot of young people there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you mentioned the minority leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, and I did ask the chairman the same question I'm going to ask you, which is, what are your thoughts on him? Are you disappointed in him the way a lot of us are? Not just here in DC. America seems to be disappointed in the minority leader in the Senate. What do you make of it? What do you make of his his change of heart?
It was a fold. It folded like a deck of cards. Let's be honest here. Outside of the whole issue of DC and our budget, the continuing resolution was a very, very difficult bill. I mean, you're giving Trump a lot of resources to do what he wants. And to go on stage and say how bad this continuing resolution is and how bad the Trump administration is, and then someone vote for it, it's kind of crazy. If you're the minority leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate, you wake up in the morning to a congratulatory text, an email, and tweet from the president, you're probably on the wrong side of the issue, right? To see that it took a Republican senator in Susan Collins to join the efforts of Senators Ossobrook, Van Hollen, Kane, and Warner really shows that sometimes you got to reach to both sides of the aisle and not feel that as a Democratic majority city, they can lean on the leadership in Congress, in the Senate, to take care of you. We fought for ourselves. We did this.
Speak to that a little bit more, because it was Susan Collins from Maine.
Yeah.
Who essentially said, oh, what they did to DC, that doesn't make any sense for them to cut schools and cut police and cut, services. Why wouldn't that have come from Chuck Schumer?
Not only would it not come from Chuck Schumer, it came after the passage of the continuing resolution. Why couldn't we do that before the continuous resolution? Why can't we have this conversation from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday, not the 11th hour on Friday? So it was definitely difficult, but it's also then again show the power of us. If we didn't say this, if the mayor didn't jump up, if the council didn't jump up, if the Democrats, if DC Dems didn't put out statements, if the Ward 8 Dems didn't step up, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Typically, we get steamrolled because people don't understand what's going on in local DC. Today, we stood up.
Amen to that. Amen to that. All right. So we always have to ask, what does the statehood crystal ball looks like at this point? Certainly you and your colleagues, you guys are elected to really fight for statehood. To, so can you speak to the work that you've been doing? You were recently reelected, of course. Congratulations on that. But can you speak to the work that you've been doing here and around the country to educate Americans about the last colony, which is the District of Columbia, and educate folks here so that they know what you've been up to.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question, and I'm so glad it happened today because we see what happens when the awareness rises. I was speaking to a key staffer of a Republican senator, a really prominent Republican senator, and he said that 50% of this country, even higher amongst conservative voters, really want to see the federal government shrink, cut their spending. And for the most part, people don't know the difference between DC residents and the federal government. So this entire year, and to be honest, my entire term as a representative, I've done just that. Raising the alarm, letting people all across this country understand what's going on in DC. When Senator Mike Lee introduced the so-called Bowser Act to bring oversight to Washington, safety to every resident, which essentially would have got our government. When he did that, being the senator of Utah, not only did we raise the attention here in DC, I actually went to Utah. I went to his backyard and talked to his constituents. We met with the minority leader, Democrat, in the House and the Senate. We're working on getting a resolution together. We spoke to their media as well as spoke to their residents. In my opinion, if you want to come up in DC and make problems for us, then I should go to your backyard and talk to your constituents and let them know why you're not focused on their issues. So we did just that. We wrote op-eds in Tennessee recently, just making sure that the Tennessee residents understand why their representative introduced another Bowser Act in the House side, and really just making sure that we reduce the information gap across this country and let people know that DC has a local community and we need to be run well. We need to be a state. We need to not have our budget be tampered with, our laws be oversaw, and we're grown up. Like, we can make our own decisions. And we've done just that. We're going around this country. We're speaking on publications across this planet to make sure people know that DC deserves to be the 51st state. Now, I admire President Trump's willingness to talk to Canada about being the 51st state, or going to Greenland and talk about being the 51st state, but they don't want it. We do. If he wants to find residents who want to be part of another state, he should just cross the street and meet us. So we're really trying to make sure we tailor his attention back to us and ensure that we get what's just due. We don't want to be different or better than anybody else. We want to be the same. And we're making that case all across this country.
Yeah. Well said. Yes, we want to be the 51st state. And we want our friends in the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, to be number 52.
Yes, sir.
So tell folks how to get in touch with you. How can they locate you? Website, socials, all of the information so that people can stay up to date with what you're doing.
Absolutely. We have our website, repoyedc.com. We have a social media, Twitter and Instagram, the same handles, repoyedc.com. We also have a newsletter. It comes out twice a week. So the first one in the beginning of the week is tell you about what we're going to do. The end of the week is talking about what we've done. It's really impactful, unbiased opinion. I really like it. And I think it'll be a really good way to show what's really happening in this office. Oftentimes I go around, people ask me, what do you do in this office? What's the purpose? Or sometimes, luckily I get to be on platforms like this. But if you want to have up-to-date information, what's going on in our office, please subscribe there. I'll put the information in the chat.
And email address?
Yes, my email address, my name is adeoye.owolewa@dc.com, or you can go to office@repoyedc.com. I'll put that in the chat as well.
Well, you always represent Washington, D.C. well. You represent Ward 8 well. And we just want to thank you for your continuing work around this issue. Last thought here. Do you collaborate at all with the senators? And do you all put out things together so that everyone is sort of equally yoked or pulling at the same time versus different directions?
Yeah, we especially with newcomer Senator Jain, who I'm very excited to work with. We've been working together a lot. Most recently, we were on the Hill. We went to some offices together. We were talking to the community, making sure they stay engaged. And I do believe we're going to have some upcoming publications together. Now, I know Senator Strauss has his own outlets. I know Senator Jain has created his own newsletter as well. And in my office, we're doing things on top of statehood advocacy, including our expungement clinics, where we help returning citizens get their records cleared and second chance employment opportunities. We have a business seminar on Tuesday where we'll be talking about financial planning and the Diverse City Fund to make sure that our communities benefit from opportunities in the city. And last but not least, we've been having virtual immigration town halls, letting non-citizen residents know the law, know how to stay protected, and how to protect their friends and their loved ones and their coworkers. So we have a lot of information coming out, and I do appreciate the opportunities for me and the senators to collaborate.
Got it. Well done. Thank you again for being here, hopping on the call today. We know that we can always call on you to come and help us understand what's happening on the Hill and the battle for DC autonomy and statehood. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, that's Representative Owolewa. He gave you his contact information and ways to connect with him on social. Sign up for the newsletter. Sign up for what you need in order for you to know what his office is up to and what we all can do, I think, to better support him and his work there. I wanted to just very quickly go over a few last slides here. One is that in case you need a reminder, the special election is on Tuesday, July 15th. It's going to be at 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. that day. Early voting is going to take place starting on Friday, July 11th through Monday, July 14th, and at the times there on your screen. As you know, when we have a special election, or any election rather, we always activate our Ward 8 Votes site, and it's basically everything where you can find information about how to vote, where to vote. It is where you can make your plan to vote. And so the QR code there will take you to the Ward 8 Votes website. You can scan it and bookmark the site now. It has not been updated since the general election. I just want to warn you about that. But clearly, once the dust settles about all of the people, and there's at least 17 of them that picked up petitions, once the dust settles and we know who is going to make the final ballot, then this will be activated, and we will be posting a lot of information about the upcoming special election. But for now, just want to make sure that you know that we're here for you to make sure that you have all the information you need to have a successful special election season. We thought we were going to have a year off, but this is a year on for us. And so again, we're going to dust off the old Ward 8 Votes section of our website for our voters here, so you can have all the latest and the best information for where to vote and how to vote. The chairman mentioned earlier that the Ward 8 office is still operating, but I should have noted and should have probably pressed him a little bit more on this, is that I think it's scheduled to end on April the 4th. And so most of the people there will be transitioning to other roles, other jobs, either inside the government or out. And so, but he's figuring out who's going to stay on. He is committed, as you heard him say, to keeping someone who is connected to Ward 8 on his staff or on the council staff for constituent services. And so they're going to figure that piece out. And when we know, they will pass it on to all of us. I just got to chat. Oh, okay. Yes. So I just mentioned that I think though most of the people who are in the office are going to transition, and he's committed, which he just mentioned here, that there will be some level of constituent services still open for Ward 8 that will be connected to his office. So just wanted we got a question that came in. I just want to clarify that. And then that council has that office rather has an email address, a one-stop shop at ward8@dccouncil.gov. You can obviously go and reach out to these individuals at their email addresses or phone numbers right now, but there appears to be some changes that will be underway there soon. And so in order for you to make sure that you're reaching someone who will be in the Ward 8 office, they are urging you to go to ward8@dccouncil.gov. And then these are their email addresses. These are Mendelson's, Robert White, Anita Bonds, Christina Henderson, Kenya McDuffie. These are our, all of these folks on the screen are elected by Ward 8 residents and voters. And so that makes them in service to us as well as the other 7 wards. And so screenshot their email addresses. When you have an issue, constituent services issue, I would CC all of them, make sure they all get it, and then hold them all accountable. And then I would be remiss if I didn't say that, you know, we can't do what we do here at Ward 8 Democrats without you, without your support. We certainly want to thank our partners who are sustaining donors for the Ward 8 Democrats, those who have set it and forget it in terms of a reoccurring donation to us. We appreciate that. We want to publicly say that we appreciate that. But we invite all of you to become a donor as well. You could be a one-time donor or a sustaining donor. And like I said, we certainly appreciate our sustaining donors, but we appreciate our one-term donors as well. You can go to our website, you can scan that, and it takes you straight to our Act Blue page. It takes us a couple of minutes to set up if you haven't already. And again, that money will go to what our programming initiatives, voter outreach, voter education, very much the things that we have to do again this year for the special election. So scan that QR code or go to our website at ward8dems.com, click on donate. It takes you straight there as well. And you can make a $5 donation, $8, $10, $25, $50, $250, $500, $1,000, whatever best suits your budget. There is a way that you can certainly support our efforts here at the Ward 8 Democrats. And then there are ways to get engaged with us. We're always looking for you to join us. And so here are some of the opportunities that we currently have, programming committees that we are setting up or have set up. And in other words, there's a place for you, for your skill and for your talent. You can send us an email or you can send us a bio to info@ward8dems.com. We'll get the whole process started with you and with these committees once we get that information. We've already heard from several of you who've reached out by email and reached out on social, and so we're going to get you plugged in and connected soon. Oh, well, that's something there too. Next, on Monday, let me put this back up. Yeah, sure, I can toot my own horn here. So join me on Monday. I'll be on Fox 5's Like It or Not. I don't know what the topics will be. They're always pretty fun topics, though, nothing too serious, although we are living in serious times. But maybe it's an opportunity for you to come and just sort of break the monotony, have a little fun, a little levity. Come and check us out. It does air live at 7 o'clock on Fox 5. It's also streams and it's on Fox 5 Local, the app. And so come and check us out. Should be a fun evening. And it's going to be on St. Patrick's Day. And so I'm looking for something green, truly green to wear. So I'll stop there in case there's any last minute questions or comments from those who have joined us today before we say our goodbyes. Sheila Bunn.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. Just wanted to remind folk about 2 advocacy issues. Yes, we got the chairman to commit to keeping on someone in constituent services through the special election. But I would hope that our community would reach out to the chairman and ask him to keep on at least 2 constituent services folk. For one person to handle the entire ward is a lot. Monique is great, but she is not superwoman. It's a lot to handle. So I would just ask my Ward 8 neighbors to join me in lobbying the chairman to hold over at least 2 constituent services staffers. And then the second piece, Mr. President, the chairman mentioned the dates for the individual budget hearings. They are on the council's website, but they're not in the calendar section. You got to do a little research for it. But I'm going to drop the PDF in the chat, but the chat doesn't go to everyone, Mr. President. So if you can let everybody have access to it so that way they can individually have it at their disposal right now. So that was it for me. Just make sure that we are sharing our issues and concerns with the council during budget deliberations, as Mr. President said, beginning April 7th through May 1st. That is another opportunity for us to let the council know what our priorities are here in Ward 8. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Appreciate that. So I don't see it yet.
I'm about to drop it. I'm sorry.
What I will do too is I'll tweet it out,
Okay.
or post it on both. We'll have our team post it on Facebook as well as on our other socials, so that they can see it there as well. And then we'll put it on the website too, if not today, by Monday.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see any other comments or questions from those who have attended our call today. Certainly want to thank you all for doing that. We want to thank Senator Ankit Jain. We want to thank Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, Representative Owolewa. I mean, this has been a really good meeting. Hopefully, our community feels like they got some great information today. And I want to also thank all of you for joining us today as well. We had a very important conversation about our DC budget crisis, about the special election, of course, and the ongoing fight for self-governance. As we move forward, let's remember that our voices matter. We've heard that several times today. Our voices matter. Our votes matter. Our engagement matter. It is critical to shaping the future of our ward and our city as a whole. Please mark your calendars for our April meeting, and we will continue these discussions and build on the momentum. By then, we will know we'll know a lot of things by then. We'll know who made the ballot, at least the preliminary part of the ballot. And then I think we'll know about that. I believe so. And then we may be able to share with you at that time where we will have our forum. We usually like to be the last to go because we are the most important group in the ward. And so, yes, I said that. So we should be able to let you know the date of that, or at least be close to letting you know the date of when that will happen and where that will happen at our April meeting. So we hope that you will tune in and stay engaged with us until then. Please take care of each other, stay informed, stay empowered. I know it's a lot going on right now in our city, in our country. Let's stay prayed up. Let's stay, meditate. Let's make sure our mental is good, because we're going to need everything we got to battle these wars ahead. So thank you all again for joining us. And we will post the information about the hearings on our socials. Everyone have a good afternoon, and God bless.
Great job, Mr. President.
Great meeting. Thanks, Mr. President.
I appreciate that, you guys. Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a great one, everyone.